All right, at this time I'm going to ask Rick Watson to come up. Not only is Rick an active member on IDA's board, he helps people with invisible disabilities through his company as well. I'm a humongous fan of the work that they do. Rick, come on up and share with us a little bit about the work you're doing. Get up here.
You know, Wayne really is relentless, so if you haven't had the pleasure, you might as well just give up now, because if he sees you, he will hunt you down. Doug was the smart one. He gave in, and right in the middle of the conversation. It took Wayne a year of talking to me, but it's a good cause. It's a good reason. That did not happen. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about something else. Doug talked about the personal implications of invisible disabilities for his life. But now I want to turn the tables. We're going to try something. I'm not sure we can actually pull it off with all the lights here tonight, but I'm actually going to ask to see if we can have the lights turned down. And when the lights come down, I want everybody to grab the flashlights that are on your table. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And if the answer to that question is yes, I want you to shine the flashlight towards the ceiling and turn it on. I want you to keep that flashlight on until I have the lights come back up. So if we can get the lights down, I don't know if that's possible. Okay? Thank you. If I ask you, do you have, or does a loved one have, or do you know of a person who has a condition, I want you to turn on your light. And we just had Doug talk about celiac disease. Look at this already. You guys are getting ahead of me. So celiac disease, or a food illness, or if you have Lyme disease, we know Sherry, arthritis, Alzheimer's, stroke, brain injury, migraines, cluster headaches, heart disease or peripheral vascular disease, epilepsy, diabetes, depression, neuropathy. These lists could go on, but ultimately, we're all going to have our lights on, because everybody, either themselves or through a loved one or through a coworker, is touched by invisible disability. And I want you to all look around this room right now and see all the lights that are on. We've taken something that's on the border, periphery of our vision, and we've lit a light on it. So if I can have the lights come back up, and you can turn off your lights. I feel like I was being grilled there for a second. Now, about this box. I told you when I dropped it that it didn't happen. In the medical world, we would say that was denial. In the logical world, it's Zeno's paradox. Zeno was a Greek thinker. He lived a few years back, about 2,500 years. And he stipulated that in order for something to move from point A to point B, it first had to cover half that distance. But before it could move half that distance, it had to move half of that. And logic tells us that we can always divide something in half over and over again, all the way to infinity. So there's no way that that box hit the floor. That's what logic tells us. But our reason, our emotions, our senses all heard that box hit the floor. We know that. In our world, we work with, generally, the extremes. It's nice and easy to think the beginning, the end, right, left. But it's the spaces that are in between where we actually live. And that box is a great metaphor for birth at the top and death sitting on the stage. That's the metaphor, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. How many people in here have seen the movie Princess Bride? Raise your hand. Good. So then you're going to know, but for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a romantic comedy. It's set in the Middle Ages, and it's filled with kidnapping and political intrigue and rodents of unusual size, six-fingered men, and it's also filled with sword fights. Now, as a guy, that's what I noticed. My wife, sitting over there, she also tells me that it's a romance. I don't know, I'll just believe her. But there's a scene near the end of the movie where the villain of the movie, Princess Humperdinck, and the hero of the movie, Wesley, they're in a room. And Prince Humperdinck challenges Wesley to a duel to the death. And Wesley says, "No, to the pain." And Humperdinck says, "What? I don't think I'm familiar with that phrase." Well, a lot of us aren't familiar with that phrase. Again, we're used to the concept of easy, simple, put everything in a box. So to the death, it's a great way to end a scene. It's a nice, simple way to get out of a conversation, to the death. But I want to talk about to the pain, because to the pain is pain, it's messy, and it takes work, and it takes time. To the pain is the experience that we've had every time we turned on those lights tonight. It's either in yourself or in your loved ones or in somebody else. To the pain is when somebody says you're lazy. To the pain is when your condition isn't popular enough to have a society that backs it up. To the pain is when your condition isn't profitable enough to have a drug company doing research on it. To the pain is all that space in between, those points when we live. The pain is the thousands and thousands of people who are still going to be living with their condition when we go home tonight. So I want to ask you, for all those people that are living with those conditions, and for some of those people that are losing those battles, but before they lose those battles, they're still living with the condition, to think about what you can do. You all saw those lights on tonight, and we want to keep those lights on tonight. We're out here working to educate families, to empower lives, to improve quality of life.